as always, and I think everybody's on a bit of a, I don't know if a come down is the right word for it, but after a superb night at Hampden last night, not quite the best night we've seen at Hampden, but it's up there. A crazy game. I think we've got some stuff to talk about. We might talk about Scotland. We'll obviously talk about Hibs as well. Joe, you were first in, so I'll start with you today. Where do you want to kick us off?
Obviously we're all thrilled with the Scotland and especially the way they did it with marvellous goals. But what an incentive for Kieran Bowie to try and force his way in the team. All he needs to do is start scoring goals. Uh, because if you look at that Scotland squad, yes, it's great that at long last got us the World Cup, but it's quite an old squad.
It is.
And after the World Cup, whoever the new manager is going to be is going to have to start bringing in some young players. And you know, other than the sort of Bournemouth guy, Ben Doak, and most of them are in their early 30s, late 20s, early
Yeah.
30s. So, I mean, I know he'll stay loyal to his squad, but there's still got to be room for one or two people to still break in to what will probably be a squad of, I don't know, 30 or something like that. I don't
Something
know,
like that, I would think,
something
yeah.
like that. So, being a Hibby, and this is a Hibs podcast, I want to see Kieran Bowie break in. He's not been scoring many goals so far this season, but we all know it's there, and he's only 22. So, come on, Kieran, you'll never get a better chance,
I think
probably.
that I think you're absolutely spot on, Joe. It's a huge incentive for Bowie, but I think also Josh Mulligan, who's he was
Mm-hmm.
called up to the last squad,
Fair point.
albeit after like a couple of dropouts. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
Josh Mulligan and Kieran Bowie, you've got to be looking at that last night and thinking, not knock it out of the park for the rest of the season and give myself a great chance of getting into the squad.
And going back to the point I was making about the age of the squad,
Hmm.
again, Mulligan is what, 22, 23 at the most. So hopefully he'll lead in some younger players. Depends what sort of friendlies he lines up because we're not going to have those playoffs now. So it's going to be an interesting few months to see what he does after Christmas.
Isn't it lovely to hear that phrase? We're not going to have those playoffs now. Tremendous. Sandy said on the YouTube comment, said even the long bangers are used down for the ceilings yet. Flowers of Scotland. And J Star said, massive well done to Hanley and Scotland. Can't see Bowie making the World Cup. Who does he drop for him, or can he take five instead of the four? John, would you make of Bowie's chances of making it to the World Cup?
I think that he's got to show that he can be the player that is threatening at the top end of the field. I think we saw yesterday that Gannon Doak gets injured. We have no pace in behind,
Mm.
and that just moved Denmark 25 yards up the pitch. So if he's going to come in, he's going to have to show something to the Scotland management team because I think it'll be the coaches will be looking at them as well. Score goals is the biggest thing he can do that will create a level of he's wanted. I mean, we've seen Scotland strikers miss from 1 yard out.
We
I mean, it
have.
was Uwe I mean, famously did it. I mean, so the idea that hit the ball gets a one from 1 yard out, yeah, those have to be scored as well. But I
Mhm.
think biggest thing Bowie can do is score goals.
Yeah.
But to get into the squad, I think he's going to have to be able to show that he can bring something different. And it's not, I mean, in the European stage, he showed that he's really effective with a big centre back at drawing the fouls, keeping the ball up. We sort of didn't have that last night. I
Mm.
mean, I didn't think, certainly with Dykes, Dykes was winning in the air and he was running at spaces. But as soon as Gannon Doak went off, so I think that's what he's got to do is show that there's something else that he will bring to I don't know if it's a 23 or a 26 man squad that will go. He's got to be that option. I mean, that's different to just
Mhm.
another tall laddie that can win the ball in the air.
So
Mm-hmm.
there's still talk Lyndon Dykes coming to Hibs in January. But if we have him and Bowie, that you would think that would improve his chances of going,
Mm.
John. Yeah.
I think would have improved his chances for two reasons. One, you would hopefully be looking at some sort of link up.
Hmm.
But two, if you're going to learn your craft in that position, I mean, as a Scotland player, Lyndon Dykes is going to be the player. I think Hanley being in the team
Yep.
is a help. An old head who's going to know. Was it John McGinn when he first went to play for Scotland, and it was Gordon Strachan, and somebody had given him the Gordon Strachan expects you to be there on time, and how Gordon Strachan expects you to behave, and how you're going to, and he just absorbed all of that information and followed it to the T. I mean, I think there is part of that would be needed. I mean, to get in. I mean, Stevie Clark is old school. I mean, in terms of that management. So he will want things done in a certain way, want his players to behave in a certain way. So I think Hanley will potentially be able to bring that side for him as well. I'm hopeful. I mean, I'd love to see that he gets 20 goals this season and forces his way in.
And Hanley, you would think, would be a cert to be going, John, yeah?
Stay fit, yes.
Aye.
Will he be first choice? I'm not sure. It depends how he chooses to play out there. But yeah, he's going to be one of 4 or 5 centre backs that are there.
Good stuff. On you go, Joe.
Well, the very fact that he was dropped for last night's game, got brought in the last minute because the other poor chap got injured, and really had a terrific game last night. He's got to be in the squad at least, I think.
You've got McKenna, you've got Hendry, you've got Suter, who all have a bit more pace and a bit more mobility.
But he's got up here. They all hate positioning and
could outsprint every one of us and beat us hand over fist in terms of fitness. But in terms of the other players that he's up against in the squad, it'll be a horses for courses.
Aye.
Yes, but the manager is very faithful to his key players, and I think
But
for
I
that
think he'll
reason,
make the squad. But
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying, is whether he'll be there on game day.
Oh, I take your point. Sorry, I was referring to being in the squad.
Chris, what did you make of Hanley last night?
I think he was excellent. It kind of reminded me of if you remember, see when Porteous came in against, I think it was Ukraine, and it was like one of the ones that I think everybody kind of wanted him to fail at that point. And I think it'd been very easy last night for people to want Hanley to fail, considering the circumstances. Being able to switch on with less than 10 minutes to go as well, and I would assume that kind of thing would go through his head. Like, I thought his performance was monumental. I think he looked comfortable. I think the way we played obviously helped that. Getting the early goal, allowing us to sit back in, meant that he wasn't exposed for a lack of pace as such as he was against the Greeks when we sort of pushed on a bit and he was like getting found at the halfway line and getting left 1-on-1. So he basically done what he done for us at St Mirren, defended his box, done his job, marked his man, and it was an all-round excellent performance, to be honest.
And what do you make of the chances for Bowie and Mulligan? If they're looking, or anybody else, but I don't know who else in the squad would be sort of close to a call, but those are the two obvious ones, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it'll be a choice between, if I'm honest, Barron and Mulligan to play. And it'll just come down to what they're doing at the time. If Barron continues to play in that Rangers midfield, then Josh he just has to put the performances in. He's got more about him than Connor Barron has, in my opinion. He can get into the box, he can get a goal, he can drive a team, he can get an assist. I don't see that with Barron. It's just you'll have that sort of Rangers tax, if you will.
Aye.
And I think it comes down to the two for that position. I think it's one or the other. The interesting thing will be Lennon Miller, where he fits into this equation as well, because there's a few players, and I was saying this to my brother-in-law today. There's a few players now that needs to kind of go out and play.
Yeah,
Miller's one of them. Craig Gordon has to go out and play somewhere. Wouldn't be shocked to see him move up to Dundee on loan for the second half of the season.
there must be a Masters tournament on or something that he could go and play in.
Well, we just had that last week, yeah, so I'm surprised that they'd pitch up in the Celtic team, bearing in mind they didn't have a goalie. And I think, again, you mentioned the point on Dykes, which I was going to mention. I think it's a massive one for him to get out and play football in the second half of the season and just all of them get consistent run of games. So there is probably implications. Scotland qualifying, good or bad, will be implications for us. And I think it'll be more positive than not. And do you know what? I hope there's some other players that look at it and go, I've got a massive opportunity here. I want to see Josh Campbell come in and start to bang in maybe 10 goals in the second half of the season and push his name forward, because we have McTominay, but Scotland didn't have another kind of profile like that where late runs into the box sort of midfielder who can get on the end of things, like Josh Campbell. I'm not saying he's going to go, and I'm not calling for him to be in the squad, but he is to take us qualifying last night as a bit of motivation to try and push himself within our squad to actually give Clark something to think about.
I think if you're David Gray, you're definitely having that conversation with the boys there, like that. You bring them in and say, like, this is your opportunity. John, your hand up, and then Joe, I think you put your hand up as well. So, on you go, John.
I would just say that's the truism. Every player who can play for Scotland in the World Cup next summer has to have a good look at themselves and say, what can I do to be that one wild card that gets taken into Stevie Clark's squad? I mean, and you don't know who it's going to be. There's going to be, we could sit and name 24, 25 players now, but there'll be one player that will come out in the last 3 months leading up to it, and it'll be because somebody else gets injured or their form comes through, and it could be anybody. You know what I mean? And Josh Campbell is as good a shout as any in terms of, I'm quite sure that any feedback that Clark and the team would get from him would be honesty, blood and guts, gives you everything, reliable. You know what I mean? And those sort of things. It might not be the player that he's wanting, but that every player who could represent Scotland next summer has to have that in the back of their mind.
Spot on. Joe, you were going to come in as well?
Yeah, just a thought, going back to thinking about Hibs, other than Mulligan and Bowie, I don't think there are any other realistic prospects of anyone getting into the Scotland squad. I hear what you're saying about Campbell, but I really don't think that's a realistic prospect, whereas Bowie and Mulligan have both got an outside chance, which underlines the point about how many non-Scottish players Hibs have got that are playing for all other different countries, Australia, Congo, and so on and so forth,
We might end up quite well represented in the World Cup
at the World Cup,
which is good to. Forgive my ignorance, because I knew Ireland were celebrating, but did Ireland qualify as well? As a chance that McGrath could be going, or were they get through the playoffs, or did they just win the game on the night?
Oh, they playoffs.
Right, so they're in the playoffs. So McGrath will be looking at it as a potential to get there with Ireland.
So we're talking about ERA as opposed to Northern Ireland here.
Aye, sorry for McGrath. Yeah, I beg your pardon.
Right, okay. So are they in playoffs then? ERA.
Well, I don't know.
Yes.
This is the thing. I was just checking. I just saw them all celebrating after the boys scored late as well. So
Portugal went through by right in their group.
Right.
Hungary were in second until that last minute winner. I mean, so another one of the bad guys got kicked out.
Good.
I mean, in Hungary getting kicked out of the World Cup. So no, well done, Ireland.
But that is Southern Ireland as opposed to Northern Ireland. I'm trying to clarify that.
Aye.
If I was referring to the district of Ulster, I would probably speak about it slightly differently.
Okay.
Ian, we're yet to hear from you. Like, nice to see you. You still kind of getting warmed up after your day on the picket line?
Oh, very good. Yes, of course, standard life used to pretty much employ everyone in Edinburgh from school, and it's just horrible to see how many of the jobs have been outsourced. So they were offered the staff in Edinburgh, the staff in Scotland, but by their outsourcing company, which is Tata, and I have history with Tata in America. They were my direct competitors, and they offered them 3% of a raise, and then they stopped negotiating in March. So I was out with my union yesterday on the picket line. Yes,
good stuff. What do you think of the chat so far?
I think the important thing is that Simon Murray's not fit. So and Stephen Presley didn't even pick him. So I thought it was ridiculous that he actually dropped Simon Murray, but I thought it was fabulous. I mean, the match last night was fabulous, and I tried to compare it. Believe it or not, before I went to bed last night, at whatever time it was, after watching so many repeats of the match, I actually watched my previous most horrific experience of watching a sporting event. Now, it wasn't 2016 because we thought we were down and out, you know. But watching Hibs and watching Scotland, well, in fact, watching Scotland, like watching Hibs and watching Andy Murray at the same time. And so last night I watched the 2012 US Open where Andy Murray beat Djokovic to win his first Grand Slam. Because
I
I
all
watched
worried where he was going there.
I heard 2012 and I was like,
Yes.
oh no, don't bring back memories.
No, it was a happy event. I was actually in India at the time on business, and I just arrived in India and I stayed up all night. But I don't know if anybody else is like this, but sometimes you just can't watch when Scotland are playing. You think, oh my God, why am I watching this? This is torture. But so I watched Andy Murray last night because it was just fantastic. I loved John McGinn's summary. We were rubbish. I thought it was brilliant. The fact he thought we were rubbish. It's funny because, of course, like everybody else, when you meet somebody for the first time, you kind of identify yourself as a Hibbie. And what sequence do you do it in? Do you say, I'm a Hibbie? And they then say, well, I'm actually a Jambo. And the guy today I was talking to, I was in the Waterleith today. I was clearing all the leaves from the Waterleith walkway today, and the guy next to me had been at the match last night and has actually been to 4 World Cups for Scotland, starting in '74 when my brother went. And it was funny just talking to him because his view was that Grant Hanley's far too slow and he's rubbish. And I said, are you a Jumbo? He said, aye. So yeah, it was just quite funny, the fact that he picked on Handley. And I thought, wait a minute, Handley had a really good game last night. I thought we were really lucky with the referee. Their goal that was chalked off for the push. I mean, that's the sort of goal that gets scored all the time. And that's, you know, it's the sort of push that happens all the time. So there's a lot more pushing goes on, and I you know, certainly when you looked at it again, it was as far as I'm concerned, it was a good goal.
And we were
It's
lucky
one of
with the
those,
sending off.
the referee gave it, and there wasn't enough for VAR to say it wasn't, because it was 2 hands, and it wasn't a nudge and a push. It was 2 hands in the back.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
The yellow, the second yellow, is probably much more dubious.
I agree with that. I was going to come on to that. I thought John McGinn did brilliantly there, because John McGinn definitely sold that to the referee. You know, and everybody else running up as well. So you didn't like to see that, but I certainly like to see it. And that turned the game completely. I mean,
that was probably the first free kick John McGinn got. By the way, there was about 4 or 5 times before that where he was pulled down, dragged back, kicked through, and got nothing.
No, he got pulled back before that. Remember, he got pulled back by the jersey before that.
In the first half, the other boy Christensen got booked.
Yeah, that's right. So, but I mean, I thought we were lucky with the ref, but equally, somebody here tell me, and I know in rugby, the line is out, but is the line that goes around the penalty box, is that in the
line is inside.
The line is in.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Okay, that's fine. Because the guy actually hit Robertson's leg outside the box. Robertson's leg was outside the box at the time. So I mean, I can't imagine how they managed to get that. But anyway, I was fascinated. I love watching good footballers play. And Scott McTominay, I couldn't believe it. If you watch his goal, right? Once he realizes the ball's going to come back in, he looks twice, right? As he begins to run back towards the goal, he looks, and then as he gets closer, he looks again. And I wonder if he's trying to see. I mean, I don't know how they're trained, but are they trained to actually look to see where the goalkeeper is? That would be incredible if that was the case. If you watch it, you'll see he looks, and then he looks again very quickly. And I just thought it was amazing. I thought his goal was fantastic. I mean, Tierney, I mean, I was delighted for Tierney. I always thought Tierney was crap when he was playing for Celtic the first time round. I didn't think he was crap. I just thought he was ordinary. I didn't think he was all that good. I remember he beat us once. We got one goal against us. I think it was at Parkhead, and I can't remember. He went around somebody and but I always thought he was quite an ordinary player.
Yeah,
but he deserves everything he got, because last night to take that on, and if you watch it beforehand, he actually anticipates long before. He thinks, I've got to be over there. You can actually see him coming in.
His positioning was brilliant. You're spot on him.
It was incredible. And I mean, obviously, Shankland's goal.
Ian, the Danish defender that Sklafs plays for Sporting Lisbon and has a transfer market listing of just short of 50 million.
Mm-hmm. I saw that.
I mean, when I first saw it, I thought, is that some stupid one of the subs that has come on? And actually, not one of the superstars is the guy who completely fluffs his kick at the edge of the area, and I just say sets it perfectly up for him.
I know, but he still obviously had to anticipate where the ball might be, and that's the sort of thing that just to use the earlier example that Josh Campbell does, and also Joe Newell does. They actually both anticipate where the ball might be. But I was delighted for Tierney. I agree that the motivation that comes from Scotland qualifying, I think that must be enormous to our club and every club in Scotland. It must lift every club. And I think the motivation should go through our team, you know. So I was delighted. with the way the national anthem was sung. And that's what the Jambo that was at the match, he told me today. He said the national anthem was fabulous. So I said to him, how do you feel about the supporters in Scotland who think that their team is British or they think that their team is Irish? Because they need to think again, you know, because that was a fantastic boost for the country. So terrific. I was very pleased.
It's brilliant seeing everybody skipping into work today. John, you get your hand up, and then once I've spoke to you, I'll get some comments from YouTube.
Through a question, I think that Dalglish's goal against Spain in '84 was always my favourite Scotland goal at Hampden. I think McTominay's has now taken that.
Mm-hmm.
Archie Gemmell's for me will still always be the greatest Scotland goal because I watched it live on telly. I mean, and there's just an emotional side to that. But is McTominay's the best Scotland goal at Hampden?
What are you thinking? So, you restrict it to Hampden goals, John, or is it
any
Scotland goal?
I mean, that's my cards on the table. I mean, Archie Gemmell to me is better than a 30-yarder in Paris.
Joe, what's your view on it? What's your favourite Scotland goal?
Well, I agree with what Ian's just been saying. Ian was referring to the fact that he looked up almost twice, but it reminded me so much of Dennis Law. Dennis Law scored lots of goals like that, the overhead kicks and the like. Mm-hmm. And I think, he probably did have a quick beat, but it was sheer instinct, class, reflection. And if you look how high he jumped and how acrobatic, for a big fella, my God, he twisted in the air something. I just thought it was terrific. I think that's probably the best goal I've seen for Scotland, and I include the Archie Gemmell goal. Although emotionally, that we were, having been just about knocked out of the World Cup, he just about brought us back into it. So I get all the emotion with the Archie Gemmell goal, and it was a terrific goal. But that one last night, I think, was better.
Okay, Chris, what about you? What's your number one Scotland goal?
I think obviously the ones last night were up there, but I always remember one I always go back to is McFadden against the Dutch in the playoffs. And there was a wee bit of build up about it. That was like a wee bit of interplay and just whipping it in. It was a fantastic goal. Granted, the second leg of that was an absolute shambles, but that one for me always stuck in my mind.
And Ian,
I only actually attended one Scotland game at Hampden. I actually watched Scotland play in the States a couple of times. I played a couple of friendlies when I lived in the States. And my favourite goal is from Hampden is the one I saw where Kenny Dalglish put the ball through Clement's legs in 1976. So I was 18 at the time, and that was some bastard stole my tartan tammy, which I managed to get back. But that was a great match. I don't know why I was at the Scotland game. I think I was on my own. So, obviously that was my only time that I attended a Scotland game at Hampden.
Brilliant. Okay, right. Scottish Jock said Sunshine on Leith, Hibs, GGTH. Sandy said massive elder Hanley Scotland. Can't see Bowie making the World Cup. Who does he drop from, or can he take 5 instead of the 4? I might have said that one already, actually. Sandy also said Hanley last night was awesome. He didn't do well against Greece. He's a country mile better than Suter. And to be fair, Craig Gordon done Scotland proud, and that sticks in my throat. Donna said, I thought Hanley had a great game last night, especially after being told he was on the bench. To step up with 10 minutes' notice, he was outstanding. Colin says, well said, John. I'm still hoping to make the squad. And all home nations are in the playoffs, apart from Scotland and England, who have qualified. John McGlynn said, evening panel. Matty, what a night. I woke up feeling like I've just had the best dream, then realised it was real. Fucking beautiful. He says, Sand said, watching Hibs in Scotland at the same high blood pressure till the final whistle. You just never know for sure. Alternative Hibs said, evening, gentlemen, does last night's result and tonight's call-in topic mean Longbangers are covering Scotland games next summer? And I've just tuned in, so who knows what you've been talking about until now. Maybe we will do Longbangers at the World Cup, John. We had Jay Starson McLean's was amazing as well. Watching Casper trying to get back was funny. And Colin said, some guys I know think anyone could score the McLean goal. Panel's thoughts. So a goal for halfway line with the keeper off his line. Is it easy or is it much harder than it looks, Chris?
I think you take the context into it as well. The adrenaline, the time of the game. He came on quite early and put in a power of work as well. So I think you have to kind of take that into it. His legs must have been like lead. So I think you take that into it. The one thing I'd say is, if you've got a player in your team that you can do it, McLean's one of the ones that can do it because he can ping a ball. He can, and I've seen him score many a goal over the years where he's got a good strike of the ball. So I don't think it's easy, and I certainly don't think it was easy last night, but it was certainly a lot easier than McTominay's goal, if you will.
Do you think that's an easier or harder goal to score than Bowie's in Europe?
I'd probably say it's easier because he's got the ball under his control. So he can sort of line up for himself, as opposed to Bowie's kind of got to do a bit more with it. But I don't think there's any taken away from it. But on the point of Schmeichel running back, I actually thought the funniest part of the whole night was watching Schmeichel try to claim for a foul after the second goal, screaming at the ref for a foul when Shanklin's moved off him. I
think he was probably trying to say that Shanklin's forehead had been interfering with him, which is a reasonable complaint. Green Tea said, agree Archie Gemmell, all-time greatest goal for Scotland, but Scott McTominay's comes close. Right, before we start talking about Hibs and Dundee, which I'd like to move on to, just want to talk a wee bit about Steve Clarke, because I think he sort of divides opinion, but that's him 3 out of 4 tournaments that he's qualified for since he's been in charge. John, I'll come to you first. Is he Scotland's best ever manager?
I don't think he is, because I think ultimately it's not Ali McLeod. It's that whole idea is that having been disappointed by that man. I never got to see Ormond's teams play. But we probably had the best team that we sent to a World Cup in qualifying. And at that time, we rebuilt for the World Cups, so we didn't make the European Championships, because if you couldn't get to the next World Cup, your international career was over. Am I right in thinking that Steen took us to 82 and died just before 86? So that's where my greatest Scotland manager would come from. My recollections of the qualifying for Spain 82 was that we effectively wiped the floor with our group. I think we dropped 1 point or lost one game. And it was flawless.
Yeah.
We were just stupid enough for, I think it was Neri did his toe poke against Brazil. And we paid for that. And again, we went through sort of the bad luck. And clearly Jock Stein had the heart attack after the game against Wales. Where we qualified for 86. So think Jock's team would be my shout. In modern times, though, he's head and shoulders above any manager we've had this century. I mean, we've had Gordon Strachan throwing teddies out the pram. We've had Craig Levein introducing no strikers. We've had Bertie Volts. I mean,
Introducing
getting the
everybody.
bingo collar card out to decide who was getting picked for the squad. I mean, there were so many bad managers in there who had reasonable squads that they could have done something with. So no, I think this century, I think he's head and shoulders. I think that 4-2 against Denmark last night flattered us though. That's my only caution is that I think he's done really well. But again, there was a real bit of honesty last night in his interview. He talked basically about the players choking against Ukraine the last time. I mean, so the manager he is now, I mean, is probably the manager in the best place. He's got players that are committed to him. He's got a really good squad. So in terms of what has he crafted over 6 years, yeah, he's done a great job to get the squad to where it is now, how they will fight for him, and how they'll deal with adversity. But I would still have Jock's team.
Okay, Joe, what about you? What do you think of the job Steve Clarke's done?
I think he's done a pretty good job. I mean, to get to 2 Europa finals and now the World Cup, anyone who says he's not done a good job with the resources he's had, I mean, but the way he's done it is he's stuck largely with the same group of players after his first 18 months or so. And his success in getting us to 2 European finals in the World Cup could also be Scotland's undoing. I mentioned this earlier in this podcast. We need to start bringing in some fresh blood because it's been largely with the same group of players, by and large, for the last 3-4 years, let's say. And whilst his focus will be in getting the best team possible to the World Cup, which is fair enough, we all want that, but it'll probably be with these older players. And what I fear for is after the World Cup, there's this split, if you like, where these guys are now too old, most of them, and we don't have enough young players, almost like Hibs don't have enough young players coming through as an analogy.
I listened to the BBC podcast on my way home from work today, and they had Robbie Money Spinning Replay Nielsen on, and he was talking about doing his pro license, and they were comparing Scotland's national team with Germany's. He said at the time Germany had just, I can't remember if they just won the World Cup or qualified or whatever it was that they'd done, but the number of caps that they had on the pitch was 500-600, I think. And they compared it with the Scotland team at the time, which was, a fraction of that. And then so you look at the game last night where you've got Hanley, McGinn, even like Dykes is approaching 50 caps for Scotland. So this is a very experienced squad that he's built and kept together, and that's probably quite important for a World Cup, Joe, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as I say, we've got masses of experience. They all know each other. They all pro for each other. They all love each other as blood brothers in many ways, and that's great going into the World Cup. I just fear for what happens after that.
Yeah.
And you've got to be looking ahead. And once Steve Clarke's gone and the World Cup's gone, what then? And I think it's almost going to be a rebuild for the next European Championships.
Ian, what about you? What are your thoughts on Steve Clarke?
I think he's done brilliantly. I think it's obviously a different era, but on one hand, there appear to be a lot more games these days and more tournaments, and obviously making 3 out of the 4 tournaments is my view terrific. But it's also having to deal with different standards of players. So he's brought in players who are, some players are not even getting a game for their own club. And if you look back to the 1974 World Cup squad, which I was chatting to the guy about today, I've just got in front of me just now. So you're looking at Leeds, Manchester United, Leeds, Manchester United, Liverpool, Manchester City, Coventry City, Manchester City, Leeds United, Manchester United, Leeds United. Incredible. Of course, they were the days where Scottish players could get into the English First Division, whereas now, of course, there are very, very few. So, I think things have changed a lot, and I think he's done really well considering that we've got players who don't necessarily play at the top level. I must admit, my previous experience of Danish football was zero until we played Midtjylland. And I was I didn't think we had any chance last night of beating Denmark because of the standard that we'd seen as Hibbies. You're playing against us. Just the quality of the play. I realise it's not everything, but the skill levels were incredible compared with us. But we obviously played very, very well against Midtjylland.
Chris Sandy made the point that Steve Clarke's effectively built a squad not dissimilar to a club squad, which is why he's successful. That loyalty is a great quality in any manager. Do you think that club ethos is kind of been key to Clarke's success?
Absolutely. I think Clarke's referenced it himself. They're his players, and he mentioned that 3 or 4 times last night. They were his players. They're his guys. He trusts them, and I think if you've got a manager like we had last season with David Gray fostering that sort of mentality, like if you have the manager's trust as a player, you 100% will give that extra 5-10%. And it's no coincidence that in Clarke's reign, the amount of late goals we've scored to win games or to get important points throughout qualifying campaigns, there's no coincidence that we've picked up these points. It's because the manager has put that club atmosphere, that ethos, that they work for each other, they work for him, and they go to the very last. And he's absolutely spot on. There is a club feel about it. There's no divisions. There's no, like they used to say with England back in the day, with their golden generation, there was a division between sort of Man United and Chelsea players, or Man United and Liverpool, or Man United and Arsenal, etc. We don't have that. We don't really talk about the players that play for any sort of clubs. Like we talk about Scotland, we talk about it as a team, as a collective. And I think Clarke does that as well. I think he's massively influential. And I was going to say a point on Joe's point about how Clarke we haven't really developed and fed players in. It's not like international football's changed in the last 12 to 15 years. We don't have friendlies anymore. Like every game generally is important. Like because the Nations League, that gives us another into a tournament. So it's important that we play our best team, because that's ultimately how we give ourselves chances to qualify for tournaments. So it's hard to then bleed players in. I think the only criticism you would have with Clarke as such, for me, is when we're in these games and we're beating Belarus 2 or 3-0, why don't we bring on a Lennon Miller or a Bowie for a bit longer to see, or Mulligan, whoever it is, to see how they adapt in the games when the game's out of sight. And that's probably the one thing I'd say about Clarke that's probably will affect us further down the line.
I suppose he hasn't neglected it totally, because you look last night, they had Hickey playing, like Lewis Ferguson's broke into the squad under him, Gilmore's come into the squad under him, even like McTominay was a young player that came in through under Clarke as well, if I remember right. I think he maybe made his debut before Clarke came in, but he was sort of on the periphery of the squad, but he's become a mainstay under Garen Doak, young player that played for Scotland. So there are, I think his problem is the quality of the youngsters coming through, to be able to pick. I think that causes them an issue as well. But then that's where like Bowie and Mulligan have got to go and step up.
But I think that's a concern, and I know you referenced Germany as well. And if you remember, I can't remember what Euros it was. They get papped out in the first round.
Aye.
They basically ripped up their whole youth system after that, and basically started again and built a squad that 8 years later, 10 years later, won the World Cup. Like, it can be done. It just seems in this country that I'm assuming, don't want to do it.
I think it's easier for the Germans because they have the money, and they also have like the ownership rules in the German clubs as well. I think they have to have like a 49, 51% split or something like that with the club ownerships. It's maybe a bit easier for them to do it. But on you go, Joe.
Well, I agree with everything that's just been said, and it made me think Hibs are going to have a big rebuild to do. Scotland are going to have a big rebuild to do when Clarke goes, and who the next Scotland manager is going to be very, very important, because he's got a shit job to do, because he's got these aged players. Most of them will be if not out of the team, on their way out. So it'd be interesting. I wonder who's going to be in the frame for the next Scotland manager job.
Well, they can keep their hands off David Gray. John, you get your hand up.
If you're Steve Clarke, you don't care what Scotland are doing in 2 years' time. You've taken Scotland to the World Cup next year. You'll take the best players for you at that time, and it's for the next manager to come in and sort the stuff out. In the same way as he came in 2019, there's a selfishness. I accept what everybody's saying, and why can't we bring youngsters through? Because every time we get a promising youngster, there's a Premiership team down south who want to come in and buy them as a 17 or 18-year-old and poach them away for clubs. That's part of the problem.
Vince said, going to be an interesting run in players trying to make the squad and a few trying to avoid injury. Bowie has something else to play for. Will Dykes be coming in the new year? Apparently that's what's on to happen. John, I'll stick with you. Dundee coming to Easter Road on Saturday. Let's move on to more important things. Hibs facing Dundee there on Saturday.
Having finished discussing the second best game at Hampden in the last decade, I think we should move on.
Aye, that's it. To the participants of the best ever game at Hampden. Or one of the participants. How are you feeling for Saturday? I'm
looking forward to it again. I'm hoping that the only doubt in my head is the back line in terms of how everybody's travelled. I mean, Bashiri's been away, Hanley's been away, and Iredale's been away. I mean, they've been the solid part of the squad, but ahead of them, and in the part of the pitch where we should really be trying to control and hurt Dundee, I think we should be fine. So I go in with a bit of cautious optimism that David Gray's had a couple of weeks to deal with bumps and bruises and get us that midfield going forward in a good place. Caddens will have had time again in terms of filling their positions out. You're looking for Nicky to continue on that upward trend. Barlaser has shown in some of the games that he can control it quite well. And your head is that unless Dundee find the magic that Livingston found, maybe he can do it again. But the thing from, again, Chaiwa is a doubt. I saw that he had food poisoning and was in hospital. So hopefully you're hoping that he's well and can come back because he's shown an impact. But no, a hungry Bowie up front who knows that the one thing he can do is to score goals. Boyle didn't play in the second game, as far as I know. I mean,
he played 12 minutes.
Fresh. Pardon?
12 minutes? 12 minutes.
I mean, so he managed to get his legs stretched, having come off the bench, having sat there for an hour. I mean, so there's nobody coming back. As I say, it's just the back three. They're the three that have all been away, and you just want them to come back in and sync.
Hanley will still be hungover, you'd reckon, eh? Time he gets to Saturday, just to have to play through it. Joe, what are you thinking for it?
I think Hibs will win easily. There's two or three of the Hibs players that haven't been in various international squads. Kieran Bowie, Mulligan, to name but two. And I think they'll be on fire. I mean, Kieran Bowie's got to be on fire. He's not scored any goals in the last 10 games or some damn thing. He's got a massive incentive to try and break into that Scotland squad. And he's got the ability. I mean, but he's done really nothing since that marvellous goal against Partizan. So I think they'll be on fire, and I think because of that, Hibs will squish it 4 or 5. However they do, I think it'll be hammering.
Quite confident then.
Yeah.
How would you set your midfield up?
Well, I've only just heard about Chagwa just now. I was unaware of that. So Mulligan's got to be the playmaker in the centre of the midfield. My pal Dylan Levitt's out injured, I assume. So you just build what's left around him.
I think Newell might be back in contention. I think he played a bounce game. So,
oh well.
And I think Cleege might be out as well. I think he took an Oxford. I read that against Dunfermline. He got taken off with an ankle injury, which is a bit of a nightmare. But I suppose good news for Bowie and Boyle. They should start. Maybe even Yuan might come into contention for it.
Yeah, that's right.
Chris, what are you thinking for it?
I think it'll be, if we don't approach it right, then we'll have difficulties. But ultimately, if we're professional about it, we should dispatch let's be honest, a shite Dundee team with relative ease. Like the whole team, like I've seen them a few times, and other than that Celtic game, they're like their manager. They lack personality. They lack a bit of something about them. Like they are absolutely dire. So, ultimately, I think if we go at them full pelt, early goal, 4 or 5, easy.
Would produce something like that, eh? Like, I mean, I know we took 3 off St Mirren, but it feels like somebody's due a bit of a scalping for us. Ian, what are you thinking for it?
Yeah, well, we have to beat Dundee and Motherwell convincingly before we come up against Celtic. Obviously, Dundee they've lost more matches than any other team in the league, and they were humped by Rangers. And for whatever reason, Stephen Presley had Simon Murray sitting on the bench against Rangers, whereas Murray would probably have loved playing against Rangers. But they came on at the hour mark. Him and Jan Danda came on, and they were a bit better after that. But we have to hammer them. We have to beat them. We have to beat them well. Again, we're trying to get the crowds. I see the Nambarens actually. They're trying to sell tickets and that, which is good. So we have to win, and we have to win it well. And I'd love to see Lyndon Dykes come back. I'd like to see him. Obviously, at the start of the season, we wanted to try and get Simon Murray, and Simon Murray would have been probably a better mentor for Bowie. But maybe not. Maybe not. I'd love to see Lyndon Dykes just coming in and mentoring Kieran Bowie.
And in terms of setting up, how would you set us up on Saturday to
Josh Campbell? Josh Campbell's got to play. He's got to play. He's played well. So, if Chaba's not available, then I wouldn't have any trouble playing with the same team. Just with Josh Campbell in there, and I'm sure that I'm sure Jamie and Josh, the other Josh, will. They'll be happy to play the same role. So, but Lassar, if he played well, so he deserves to keep his place. He deserves to keep it, and I don't see why we would play any differently to the way we played against St Mirren. So, as Chris said there, we have to get in and score early, and then it could be a lot. And we have to look like we're a good football team again. Towards the end of the St Mirren game, we were really stroking the ball about. That was lovely. So I think it's got to be entertaining. But as I say, we've got to beat Motherwell, and we've got to beat Dundee before the Celtic game. Unfortunately, I can't go to the Motherwell game because it's my wedding anniversary, so bad form. Yeah.
To just take the wife.
Sure.
You mentioned it about the winning those couple of games before we play Celtic. It's a bit of a kind run of fixtures coming up for us. That Celtic game, maybe aside, we talked about an extra time and sort of looked at the next. I can't remember if it's 4 or 5 games that we covered. How important is it, Ian, that we put a wee run together, even if it means not, we don't necessarily beat Celtic?
Yeah, I remember your summary and just how many points we should get. I mean, we should definitely at least draw with Celtic, because we should expect to be able to beat Celtic. So now we should expect to be able to beat them. So, but a draw would be fine. But we have to put together a run now, because if we stagger again, if we stumble again, like if we don't beat Dundee or Motherwell, then we'll begin to lose confidence completely. I thought the programme with Ian Blackford was terrific. I was amazed at how similar Ian and myself were in terms of the eras, if you like, apart from the entertaining start to the podcast, which was good. But no, it was great. They really kept the discussion going, and Ian, it was just fascinating how much of a Hibby he is. Because I think I've mentioned before that I met him at a couple of matches, including in Paisley a couple of years ago when I got my photo taken with him. But it was really fascinating, especially when he was talking about the potential purchasers and who we missed out on, etc.
I always think it's interesting when we get your well-known Hibs fans, and sometimes you hear them on TV and stuff, and when they start talking, you think that they're not really that much a Hibs fan, kind of they follow from
That's
afar
right,
kind of thing.
yeah.
But never got that impression. Meaning he was proper talking about getting his season ticket back and
Yeah.
being delighted to be there and everything. It was if you haven't listened to it already, I would definitely recommend going and having a wee listen. It's not like one of these podcasts where we do it after the game and it's only really relevant for immediately after the game. This is one that you'd be able to kind of pick up at any point.
And he gives his view on the season so far as well, and he also says that what we've got to do. We've got to put a run together now, etc.
Chris, if we get a wee run together over the next few fixtures, I think it's we start closing down on the two teams above us.
Yeah, a run's massive in this league. Like, as we know, every team beats every team. So actually putting a run together separates you. So any team that can get that bit of momentum will then start challenging. And if we're being honest, there is absolutely no chance the mutants continue on. They have had luck. Like, let's not kid on it. I know they've had good results in that, but they've had a lot of the rub of the green when it comes to late goals. Eventually that will turn. Like we said with Aberdeen last season, things like that will turn. And we need to be in a position where we can strike. Like, and as Ian says, we should be looking to beat Celtic. Celtic, at the minute, not much up front, really lacking pace out wide. Like, we can absolutely get them. Like, with Celtic, if you get about Callum McGregor, you can then start to dictate the game. Mm-hmm. So there's no reason why we can't have a raucous Easter Road and actually beat Celtic as well. We put a run together, then we're absolutely going into the next derby. We could be very, very close to them.
It's an exciting prospect. Right, get score predictions for you, and then we'll wrap up. John, what's the score going to be on Saturday?
3-0.
To the good guys, yeah?
Absolutely.
Obviously. Right, Joe, what's the score going to be?
4-1 Hibs.
Right, 4-1. No clean sheet, though, but we'll take the 4 goals. Chris?
5-0.
Terrific.
5-0.
Ian?
4-0 with Josh Campbell scoring, and then 2-1 against Motherwell.
Right. Perfect. Okay, right, we will wrap up there. John, Joe, Chris, Ian, thank you very much for giving up your Wednesday evening to come on and speak to us. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. Give us your comments on YouTube. Really appreciate it. Do hit the like button before you go. And if you want more Long Bangers content, go to Patreon and you'll see what the subscribers get there. We'll be back on Friday with the preview show. So that'll be myself, John, and Colin. We'll look ahead to Dundee on Saturday. And then on Sunday, of course, back with our normal weekly episode from 8 p.m. on YouTube. You can tune in. Thanks very much, and we'll see you all next time.